Hello, sixth graders. This is just going to be a quick little review about multiplying fractions. So if I'm multiplying fractions, it's really simple to just think about multiplying across. So if I have 1/2 times 1/4, that is going to be equal to 1 times 1 on the top. So I'll put this here, and on the top, 1 times 1 is 1. And 2 times 4 is 8. I multiplied across the top and across the bottom, and I got 1/8. Sometimes we'll see a problem that looks like this. It'll have maybe a fraction that we're used to seeing, but it'll be multiplied by a whole number. So what do we do in this case? Well, we have to change our whole number, so 4, to a fraction so we can multiply across. And I know that 4 is equal to 4 wholes, so I'm going to change that to be 4 over 1. And I can think that in my head, and I will look at my top numbers. So I have 2 and 4. So on my top of my answer is going to be 2 times 4, which is 8. And then on the bottom, I'm going to have 3 times 1, which is 3. When you see this, and I see I have an improper fraction, meaning the number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom, then I have to divide and find my remainder. So to divide, I'm going to take my bigger number, and I'm going to divide it by the smaller number. So I'm going to divide the top by the bottom. How many times does 3 go into 8? It goes in 2 times. And 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to subtract that. 8 minus 6 is 2. And now 3 can't go into this 2, and there's nothing left. So 2 is our remainder. So our remainder will be 2, and then I'll have 2/3. And this 2/3 comes from this remainder of 2 of my thirds. So my answer for 2/3 times 4, I'll rewrite it down here, is equal to 2 and 2/3. And that is my simplified form. If I wanted partial credit, I could leave it in this, which is still the right answer, but it's not simplified all the way. The next thing we're going to look at is the circle trick. Let me grab a new page for that. So our circle trick is when we might have a mixed number. So if I had 1/4 times, let's do 1 and 2/3. Well, I can't just multiply across because I have this whole number in the way. So I'm going to take this, and what I'm going to do, this mixed number, I'm going to make it into an improper fraction. And to do my circle trick, let me label this up here. Circle trick. And to do this circle trick, I am going to multiply my bottom number with the whole number. So my bottom is multiplication, and I'm going to have 3 times 1. And I have my 3 from right here and my 1 right here. And that is equal to 3. Now I take this answer, and I'm going to add it to my top number. So then I'll do the rest of my circle, and I'm going to go 3 plus 2, which is 5. So now my new fraction is going to take this number on the top, this new number that we just created, and we're going to keep the bottom denominator. So I will have 5/3. So I just figured out using the circle trick that 1 and 2/3 is equal to 5/3. But I'm not done yet. I have to plug this back into my equation. So my original equation is 1/4 times, and instead of 1 2/3, I'm going to plug in my 5/3, and that is going to equal, let's multiply across. I have 1 times 5 is 5, and I have 4 times 3 is 12. And that is the simplest form this can go in. So my answer is 5/12. Sometimes, let's move this over. Sometimes you might have an equation that has two mixed numbers in it. So for example, if I was given the equation 2 1/2 times 2 3/4, I right away see that I have two mixed numbers, and I'm going to have to do that circle trick for both of them. So let's start with 2 1/2. I'm going to rewrite this down here. So I have 2 1/2. On the bottom I multiply, so I have 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. On the top, I'm going to take that 4 and add it to this numerator, which is 1. That equals 5. So 5 is on the top of my new fraction, and I'm going to keep this 2 right where it is. So then I go 2. So this fraction is equal to that. Now let's look at our next mixed number. And I have 2 3/4. I multiply the bottom, so I see my bottom number is 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. And now I'm going to take that 8 up to the top, and I'm going to add on my numerator, which is 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. So on my new fraction, 11 is on top, and I'm going to keep my denominator 4. Okay. So now we're going to plug in our new fractions to our equation. So my new equation is 5/2 times 11/4. And this is equal to the same problem. This is the same problem, it's just written in different ways. And now that it's written in this way, I can multiply across. See how my whole numbers aren't in the way anymore? So in my new fraction, I have 5 times 11, which is 55, and 2 times 4, which is 8. You might have noticed right away that I have my improper fraction. My number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom. So let's divide. I'm going to take my number on the top and divide it by 8. And 8 goes into 55 6 times. So 8 times 6 is 48. I'm going to subtract. I cannot do 5 minus 8, so I'm going to borrow from my tens place. So that turns into a 4 and this into a 15. 15 minus 8 is 7, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So I have 7 left over, and that's going to go on my top fraction. So I have 7 over this 8 right there. And now, because I'm a great mathematician, I'm not going to leave my answer up there. I'm going to make it nice and clear, and I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to write it so my teacher can see it and grade it, and I'm going to do a nice box around it, maybe a couple times. My answer for 2 1/2 times 2 3/4 is 6 7/8. All right, you guys, please reach out and email me if you have any questions.